Hello and welcome to Dead Letter Movie Chat, episode 12,
12!
recorded November 9, 2014. I'm Tim,
I'm Andrew.
and we're going to talk about the new Christopher Nolan science fiction epic Interstellar,
Epic
which,
indeed.
which
Yes.
opened this weekend, starring Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway,
Michael Caine,
Michael
of course.
Caine, Matt Damon, and
As it turns out, and randomly Topher Grace.
yeah,
yeah.
figure that out.
Yeah.
So we actually both just saw this movie yesterday, as of the time we were recording this.
Yep.
I was fortunate enough to be able to see it in an IMAX presentation. There lots of movies, commercial movies these days come out in IMAX. It's okay. It's really really big. It's a very big screen, but that may not really add anything to the movie necessarily. I felt like this one was one of those that the bigger screen actually helped.
Well, there's a lot of information going on
There
in
is.
the cinematography of the film.
And a lot of the shots have just such tremendous scope to them that it really helps you get a sense of the scale and your own relation as an individual to it. Seeing it at that scale.
In IMAX, I imagine it makes you feel insignificant, like space does.
Yeah. A little bit of that in Quaron's Gravity as well.
I imagine, yeah.
But so I've been looking forward to seeing this movie for months. I'm kind of a fan of Christopher Nolan's work. I haven't seen all his movies, but I've liked pretty much everything I've seen.
I think I've seen just everything. I haven't seen all of Following.
I have not seen Following. I actually still have not seen Memento.
Memento's good, and I actually really liked Insomnia with Robin Williams and
I forgot Insomnia. Yeah,
it's. I mean, it's not that different from the movie it remakes, of course, but it's still kind of. I don't know. I thought it was still good. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
So this one, I don't know about actual budget, but it feels certainly like the largest in scope. I hate to overuse that word of anything he's done.
It definitely had a lot of money.
Yeah, and just the sheer size of the story that he was telling. Which is also reflected in the runtime. Nearly 3 hours, this movie.
Which is always hard. It's not necessarily a bad thing to make a movie about 3 hours, but it always is something that I have to get ready for on a psychological level.
I will confess to not having been ready. I hadn't actually looked at the runtime before I went and stood in line to get not crappy seats.
So you're sitting down for a long time.
Yeah.
Apparently, the budget on this movie was $165 million.
That's big.
And you definitely see. I don't know if you see every dollar, but you definitely see that he's got the money on this one.
I didn't see any shortcuts at all. Anything. It was like, okay, they shot this in such a way that it would cover up. Hey, that's actually cardboard. Or
yeah, and the CG in the film actually looks pretty great. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this may just be coming from the horror film guy, and CG is a problem in a lot of horror film things, but in science fiction, it can be pretty crappy too. And that's not necessarily a money thing as it is we just don't want to spend the time kind of thing. So not only does it look good, you can see that they took the time to make it look good.
That's true. The seams are really not noticeable at all.
Oh yeah, no.
So.
And there's definitely there's definitely a good use of. I don't think there's as much green screen in this as there was in, say, Gravity. So I feel like there's a lot of stuff that was built for this movie.
Yeah, and there were a number of practical effects and practical sets. I mean, the spacecraft itself was obviously largely a real physical construction. At least the portions we actually see the actors in.
Yeah.
In short, the basic story is in the not very distant future.
We're particularly clear when, but yeah.
It's implied that it's sometime in the 21st century,
Mm.
due to a
Famine,
yeah,
blight, I guess.
they call it a blight.
Yeah.
Is the mechanism of the apocalypse in this scenario that is wiping out all of Earth's food crops. So basically, the Earth is dying, is no longer going to be viable, and this is what happens when a small group of scientists, what's left of NASA, and pilot Matthew McConaughey, who has restyled himself as a farmer in the wake of this famine, determined that in order for humanity to survive, we must reach out beyond this planet. So, being the science fiction guy, this movie really is kind of right in my wheelhouse. So its message and its themes were already, I'm kind of predisposed for those to be speaking to me, for me to be receptive. So, that said, this was, I felt, very, very well executed on all of those points. I think this will draw, in years to come, very favorable comparisons to Kubrick's 2001.
Yeah. I totally agree. It definitely has a style and a scope, and maybe not a feeling of dread that 2001 has, but it definitely has a similar feeling in some form, something that definitely reminds me at a more internal level of 2001.
Yeah. Like when you finally get to the space exploration part of 2001, to that segment, it's more a question of we're going out there and doing this because we can, because we have the means, and we are explorers. In Interstellar, it's much more out of necessity. We are going because we must.
Yeah.
There is no alternative. But all the science in this movie is really very, very grounded. It's, in nearly all cases, pretty much to the best of our current understanding. I read a piece on Wired about one of the physicists that they consulted with, on his notes on astronomical phenomena, like wormholes, black holes, and some of these things. And it was really cool. They got to do some actual science just by using his notes and doing the 3D render of some of these objects. So I'm going to try and find that piece and link it in the show notes. But no, that was a great read. So in addition to being in a lot of ways a hard science fiction movie, the film also had a lot of very, very pointed and very well directed human elements. I thought there was a great emotional impact. There's a lot of human drama as well.
Yeah, this film definitely, of the other films that Nolan has done, there's definitely more resonant emotional feelings that come out of this film than there has in other movies that he's done. You really feel when I say this, I don't mean to say that the film is 3 hours long and you feel it. What I mean is you feel the weight of time. Like, I can't really say that without spoiling. I mean, I can't really explain that without really spoiling the film to a certain extent. But you definitely feel the weight that space travel involves and the various things that they have to go through. So it's interesting because it definitely it works with your emotions in a manner that he's never really succeeded. Well, I don't know if he's tried, but it's definitely never been in that realm before, and I think he's definitely excelled in this regard for this film, at least.
Yeah, I think there was definitely a sense of urgency on a scale that he hadn't really done in any of his previous films.
No. And for the most part, I mean, what do you expect? I mean, you can be, I don't know, a really emotional Batman is the thing we make fun of. You know what I mean? Because that's kind of like the joke, it's like, and Batman goes off in a corner and cries about his parents. I mean, it's just like, it's just not indicative to what he's been making before. Inception was a film more about, I don't know, it was more of an ideas movie. Not that there aren't ideas in this movie, because there clearly are, but this film is also focusing a lot on the emotions of various problems of necessity, of space travel, of famine, of apocalypse, of whatever. So, I mean, I think that Nolan has definitely grown as a filmmaker with this particular film in comparison to his other movies.
Yeah, when we were talking about this earlier, I got to thinking, well, what is Christopher Nolan's best movie really? Because I'm sure there are some haters out there, but it's hard to deny that he is a really very talented
Yeah,
filmmaker.
he definitely knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
Um,
it doesn't always necessarily work.
mhm. And we discussed earlier that every one of his movies has at least one or two glaring flaws that may or may not ruin the movie for you. I don't think they ever ruin the movie for me, but they're definitely a thing that later I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
But yeah,
but no, it's easy to see a steady progression in his work, that he's getting better over time and improving
yeah,
his craft.
he definitely does seem to be getting better, which is
I
something,
think, yeah, that also
which is something to
extends.
nurture. I feel.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Um,
We need more of these guys.
yeah,
I I think that extends also to his brother Jonathan, who was the writer on this, or the
screenwriter.
yeah, story writer. They worked together on the script, I think, if I'm understanding that
Yeah, in
correctly.
2008, Jonathan wrote a draft of it that was supposed to go to Steven Spielberg, and then I don't know, at some point, Christopher got on it as well. So yeah, originally it was just a Christopher thing. So
Yeah.
he's definitely grown as a screenwriter as well. I feel he's done just about everything his brother has done. I think.
Just about.
Yeah,
It's like Clint Howard being in every one of Ron Howard's movies.
yeah, it's just the thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know that I would necessarily say this is his best movie. Having just seen it last night, I'm kind of
Yeah.
on the fence whether it would be this or The Dark Knight. Inception was a concept movie, but it felt more self-contained. So that's a little down the list for me. Don't get me wrong, I liked it, but I didn't feel it was as solid a work from him. But yeah, and at nearly 3 hours long, I didn't feel like the pacing was off. Some of my friends who were with me remarked, "Yeah, this movie could have stood to lose about half an hour." I don't disagree with that exactly, but I don't know where you would cut it.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing. I mean, like, there's probably, I feel like what they could have done is just made a tighter script, and that would have gotten rid of a 20 to 30 minute thing there. Like I was telling you earlier, that I think this is this film that couldn't have hurt to have had another pass through and rewrite. Just another draft.
Not even a full rewrite. Just another draft. Just a little bit of extra
Tightening.
polish. Yeah.
And that's like, and that's not to say it sucks, because it doesn't suck. I mean, like, it's a pretty good script. I mean, like, everything's gonna have. It's very difficult for things not to have script problems, especially in a genre piece. And that's the horror film guy is saying this. Like, the B movie guy is very aware of these faults. The thing is, the faults in the script aren't things that are particularly awful. There's this one science fiction film contrivance that has been bothering me for the last like 3 years. And that is just like, and all of them do this. You're hard pressed to find, well, yeah. Yeah, pretty much all of them do this in either way. Is that is the technology only goes as far as the plot allows. And it could go either way. The technology will be so limited, or the technology will be so awesome, as insofar as what the plot needs. And that's not really a terrible thing. It's just a thing that bothers me a lot for some reason. And there's a few instances of that in this movie. There's like some things where if you think about it later, you're gonna be like, but if they have that, why can't they just do what? But
Yeah, and I've got things that I could say about that in a broader sense as they pertain to science fiction in general. But in the interest of being at least somewhat brief, we won't talk about that here. So
Yeah.
just
So
just for this movie, I I'm gonna give it an A.
mhm.
Really, really solid movie. I'll even go as far as to say great. It wasn't what you would call a fun movie, but it wasn't a real downer of a film either.
Yeah, it's not exactly. It's not happy, but it's
No,
not sad,
no,
really.
it's mostly a drama.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely a drama. It's definitely
It's yeah,
a science fiction drama. Yeah.
it's not a tragedy. It's not a horror. It's sort of an adventure, but not like your swashbuckling type.
Yeah. It's not like a. It's not really much of an action film.
No, no.
Um,
There are certainly action sequences, but so I'm going to give an A. I think we are going to see this movie pop up on a lot of the awards lists
yeah.
for a lot of different things. I honestly, given what else there's been this year, I think this is right now at least a contender for some of the best picture.
Possibly. Yeah. I feel like if it's one of those years where there's like 9 nominees, that's for sure. Even if there's 7, I think that's for sure. If there were 5, maybe not. But that's kind of how I feel as well. I guess for me, like there's like I said, there are script issues, but they aren't script issues with the plot. There's script issues with character for the most part. There's just a few little things that you're like, but a person wouldn't really act like that if they were in that kind of situation, and that I understand it to the necessity to the plot to a certain extent, but they were things that wouldn't have hurt the plot if they just thought it out a little bit more. So this is like
Yeah,
as the
that's
aforementioned,
fair.
yeah, the aforementioned other draft would have fixed this stuff, I think. So, and that's mostly the thing. Plot wise, it works really well. It looks fabulous. All the performances are really good, but it's just there's just a few character issues that were very difficult for me to get past. So this is definitely, it's probably like a low B plus, I guess. It's like it's like an 87.5 or an 88, something around there. If you were going to give it a number on 100%, that isn't to say that it's not. I mean, like clearly that's a good movie. I mean, like it's I have like those little problems I have with it are only enough to make it not be an A movie. So I mean, consider that. I mean, so I think it's worth going to see. It's definitely a movie that you should see in the theater. Not that this movie's going to suck on Blu-ray, but it's definitely going to be a lot better on a big screen. And the biggest screen you could possibly see, probably. At least that's what Tim has led me to believe.
That is certainly my feeling on it. I mean, it'll look fantastic on Blu-ray, but I think the impact will not be nearly the same as big a screen as you can get your eyeballs in front of.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely recommend this movie. It's absolutely worth seeing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm going to watch it again anytime soon.
No, but that's because it's almost 3 hours long, not because it sucks.
It's a lot to sit through. It was really good, but it's not something you're just going to put in on a lazy afternoon.
No.
So
very good. It's definitely a must see film of 2014. That's for darn sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that about wraps us up. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.